Hey, what's going on YouTube world? Sebastian here with Spin Driving School, and today we are doing another road test video, this time class 5, so with the highway or the freeway. I made a video earlier this month, class 7, so without the highway, you know, the basic road test, if you will, though to be honest with you, they're almost the same thing, minus the highway in some cases, or plus the highway in the case of a class 5. Though I've had students that were never taken on the highway for their class 5 road test. It really depends on the city where you're doing your test. You know, let's say which route you take, the time of the day, traffic situation. There's a lot of different factors. So just because you're not going on the highway, that doesn't really mean much. Let's say you should be definitely going on the highway in most cases. And majority of times, you know, people do go on the highway, again, depending where you're doing your road test at, in what city, but specifically in Burnaby, it is very common to go on the highway for your class 5. As far as parking, usually it's only parallel parking and then reverse park at the end, or in some cases, you just pull forward. You know, a lot of people think that just because you pull forward into the spot, you're going to fail. But for class 5, it is actually very common. I've had a lot of students who were never asked to reverse park. They just pull right forward into the spot. And sometimes that means you failed the road test, that you just did really bad and they don't care to see your reverse park. But that is actually, it just depends on the examiners. I've also had students who had to reverse park. I've had students who pretty much did almost the same test as their class 7 without going on the highway. They would pull over multiple times, parallel park. They still ask you about hazards while you're driving. So again, in different situations, you will have a different experience, but you know, we're gonna go through like a standard road test scenario. I'm actually gonna go on a highway twice here from 2 different approaches, 2 different entry points, if you will, and then we're gonna finish off in you know, like a very common test areas. But as far as routes, there's a lot of different routes, so don't think that you're always going to be taking the same route. They do change from time to time, different cities, but you know, at the end of the day, if you know how to drive, it shouldn't matter. You can't just say that, oh, you didn't take me on this road test route, or I wasn't familiar with it. It definitely helps, but you should be looking for the signs and driving, you know, being adaptive to your situations and your circumstances and to your environment. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. So we're doing a pre-trip scenario here as well. So you get in the car, you start the car, you roll your window down. You know, clearly you're going to put on your seatbelt, and you know, the order of things may vary, and again, depending on the situation where you're doing your tests. So you're doing your lights test, you know, low beam, high beam, left, right signals accordingly. So there's your signals, hand signals for cyclists, windshield wipers. You may or may need to turn on the sprinkler system, emergency or your hazard lights, defoggers, defrosters for front and back. And then you may be asked to either engage or point to your emergency brake if it's not on. And honk the horn. Again, the order of things may vary. So then you will be beginning a road test out of the parking lot, signal shoulder check. We are turning left here, and I'm going to be going onto boundary, starting off with the highway. So generally, when you're doing your class 5, if you are going on the highway, that's going to be probably one of the first maneuvers. The first place where you're going, let's say, is going to be the highway. In most cases, we are doing Burnaby, so bear that in mind. Again, it may vary for different cities. Right turn, right shoulder check, full stops. There's a stop sign there. If there is no stop sign, you always treat the sidewalk as a stop sign. Maintain your speed limit. 45 to 50 is totally fine. Do not drop your speed limit below 40 unless it is required. or unless you have good reasons. But driving too slow is a very common mistake for class 5 drivers, especially international drivers, especially people who are not from here, and are doing their test in the winter time when it's raining. Driving too slow, driving on the highway too slow. We'll get into that when we're merging on the highway, but bear that in mind. Speed limit is to be kept between 45 and 50. If you drive 40 or below 40, that's not good. Left turn here, so again, always signal shoulder check. I have videos on shoulder check, so we're not going to talk about the timing of it. Going through the train tracks, scanning both ways, whether you start with left or right is irrelevant as long as you check both ways. If you want to go left, right, left, sure, doesn't matter really. And if people tell you it does, that's, it's just an opinion at the end of the day. Onto the highway from Boundary, we're heading east. So we'll be crossing Willingdon and we are getting off at Sprott. So left turn here at the lights, second car in line. I'm up on a hill. I'm going to give myself a little bit of space so I'm not stopping too close in case the car in front of you rolls back. And green arrow, you can definitely follow the other cars into the intersection. You can be a little bit closer if you want, but still keep your distance. Watch the speed of the cars in front of you. And as always, signal shoulder check, even in this case, sure, with these left or right turn arrows. Just throw it out there. It's not going to hurt you. At this point, your speed limit should be matching the speed limit that is on the highway, unless you can't see, like in this case, or someone, gets in front of you or they slow down. Here, actually, some of the highway patrons are going to be driving rather slowly and poorly. So I will be passing some vehicles, but you could also be getting off here at Willingdon. So if you're not asked to make a lane change, you can just stay in that right lane. Some people are asked to make lane changes in this case. Sometimes they're not. I've had students who are told, just drive the way you normally do. Just make sure you follow the rules and blah, blah, blah. It's just, again, everyone has a different experience. Unfortunately, there's just no absolute standard for testing. So I basically just made a lane change here because everybody else, like people were actually driving like maybe 70 or even 80, where the speed limit was 90, and there was no reason for people to be merging or driving slow in this case because the highway is moving very smoothly and there's not a lot of cars on the road. So sometimes if the flow of traffic is slow, if you're merging slower than the flow of traffic, that's fine. But you don't want to be merging or driving on a highway slower than the speed limit if if the highway is moving at a good pace and it's rather clear and free. That's called the freeway, though in a lot of cases it's not free at all. It's congested and it sucks. So if it's congested and you're merging slower, that's fine. But in the perfect scenario, you should be merging at the same rate of the speed of the highway, or even a little bit faster. Even if you merge faster and then you slow down accordingly, that's fine. So there I just made a lane change back over to the right lane because I'll be getting off at Sprott down onto Canada Way. So when you're exiting, signal, shoulder check your mirrors first. At this point, again, class 5 is a road test for well-experienced drivers, right? So when you're doing your road test for your class 5, you're expected to be a pro essentially, right? You've had plenty of years of practice experience with different situations, different circumstances, weather conditions, etc. So you have to be on the ball. Getting off here, again, exit at 50. Yellow speed limits are just suggestive or recommendations, so it doesn't mean you have to slam on your brakes and slow down to 50. I'm not stopping or slow down here because there was a green light, I do believe, and so I just keep it moving. Shoulder checks, yes. And now the speed limit is back to 50. You are not going to be driving over 50 and under 40. So again, between 45 and 50 is perfect unless you're following another car that's making you drive slower. Not a problem. You're not going to fail your road test because you can only go as fast as the car in front of you. Okay, calm and collected. You should be at this point with lots of experience and lots of practice. green light, scanning the intersections, always both ways. Full stop. So any of these situations where you have stop signs, where it feels like it should be a yield, which it should be maybe in this case, you're going to make a full stop. Make sure they're yielding to the cars that are coming from the left side in this case. It's a kind of unusual situation, but I know people who have failed at the top of that hill at that stop sign. Sometimes you can't even see it, depending on how the trees are overhanging. And again, speed limit here is 50. There was a sign posted earlier up there on the right hand side. So I'm just maintaining my lane position. If I'm not asked to make a lane change, I'm just going to maintain the same lane position on the right hand side. In some cases, the examiners will be okay with you if you make a lane change on your own, as long as it's not required by like a merge or a construction zone. Sure, if you're stuck behind someone who's going slower and you want to go around them or make a lane change, that should be okay. But if you're not given specific directions, just maintain that lane positioning and wait until they tell you to make a lane change, or until it just becomes part of the road. Let's say, like I said, a construction zone or some sort of a merge, where sometimes it happens where you go from 2 lanes into a single lane, or vice versa. But in this case, going down Canada Way again, it's a little bit curvy. No problem. I'm still going 50, 47, 48, 49. Just cruising, you know, thinking about how awesome my lunch is going to be, or dinner, or maybe breakfast, or, you know, whatever. Just don't let it ruin your day. I know you're going to be nervous, or you are nervous at this point, but it's just what it is. And to be honest, at this point, you shouldn't really be that nervous, especially as nervous as you were possibly for your class 7, because now you've had a lot of experience and again a lot of practice. I know I keep harping on that, but that's essentially what is going to minimize your nerves for the most part. We're still going to be nervous, but your nerves can be minimized just by being confident and knowing what you're doing and being capable of what you are asked to perform. Continuing going straight. So again, in this case, you are maintaining the same lane position. Sometimes I've known people who went into that right turning lane by accident. Now, if that happens, just make a right turn. Don't go straight from the left or right turning lane, because you're going to fail. If you make a mistake on your road test like that, where they ask you to make a left or right turn and you by accident go into the, let's say, opposing lane, or you didn't mean to go straight, just make sure that you follow the traffic, right? So if you end up going into a right turning lane by accident, just make a right turn. You're not going to go in a direction that they've asked you to. You probably are going to have to backtrack or find a different way. That's always a possibility, but you're not going to fail your road test. But if you make a mistake, especially if it's a dangerous action, it's game over. So again, at this point, we shouldn't really be making mistakes like that with class 5 drivers. So again, for a lot of you international drivers, people who come here from other countries, like I have long time ago, we do tend to struggle with these new environments, especially if you've been driving somewhere else for a long time, especially in a place that doesn't have the same rules and regulations and colors, and I'm talking about specifically signs or signage. There's a lot of greens, a lot of reds, a lot of different things that you have to be able to absorb and process as you're moving along within the traffic rules. And I know it's not easy, but this is why practice pays dividends, and you have to just get as much practice and experience as you possibly can, because these things here are a lot different. We do have a system, we do have rules, and for the most part, people do follow the rules and drive according to the rules and regulations. Making a right turn here onto, I can't see what the street is, but we're making the right turn, right signal, right shoulder check as always. We're basically making my way back to ICBC, and then we'll go for like a more accurate road test with the things I talked about earlier, like parking and everything else that comes with your standard road test scenario. I just wanted to do, just kind of like two separate approaches. As I said previously, it shouldn't really matter where you go. If you know how to drive, if you know how to follow the rules, if you're observant, if you see the signs, it should be easy breezy. If you know what the signs are, where they begin, where they end, what they mean, when they're effective, etc., then it's not going to be rocket science, depending on where you are and which route you take. So making a right turn here, right signal, right shoulder check, red light, always a full stop, inch forward, scan, and yield to any traffic that is coming from the left-hand side. I shouldn't even be saying this. This is not a bike lane, this is a shared lane, so we're sharing this road with cyclists, double yellow line, so no passing clearly. And again, I'm making my way back to ICBC. Practice experience, practice experience, practice experience. Don't be nervous, be confident. Shared lane, continue going straight here, maintain that lane positioning. So when the lights change to green, or if it's green, if you're moving, don't make a lane change in the middle of the intersection, because a lot of times in this situation, people panic when they cross through this intersection, and they just, all of a sudden now they realize that, holy crap, that's a bike lane, even though you've been driving in it already for a long time. And people do make a lane change. I've seen it happen here onto the left side in the middle of the intersection. So don't do that. Make sure that you scan this this train tracks rather. Again, left, right, right, left. I'll make a lane change after the train tracks. Signal, shoulder check. Always shoulder check for your lane changes and for all your turns. And left turn here back onto Henning Drive, Gilmore, going back to ICBC. So it's green. I'm stopping behind this car. I'm not going into the intersection until he leaves and until I know it's clear. If you have good visibility and you know the intersection is clear, you can follow the other car into the intersection. At the end of the day, it's all about visibility, experience, and how well you do it and how safe you do it. Just gonna hang out here. This person should be a little bit closer to the center to let me pass, let's say, safer, but in this case, I'm just going to wait. I'm in no rush, right? Again, it's a road test. It's not a speed test. We're not looking to get from point A to point B as quickly, but as safely as possible. If you can do it, quote unquote, fast or at a good pace and speed, that's great. And a right turn, right signal, making the right turn back into the parking lot, and I will be parking. I don't remember if I'm doing a reverse or forward. I think in this case, I'm just going to do a forward park. So you should know at this point how well you did. You know, sometimes people do make mistakes without realizing them, and mainly those are like schools or playground zones or things along those lines. But at this point, you should know. So even if you do pull forward, as I mentioned earlier, that's fine. So we're going on another quick little route. This time we'll be going into the Adanac, Hastings kind of boundary area, which is kind of tricky. I guess a lot of people complain about that area. This is why I chose that area for the second part of this video. I think there's probably like 5 or 7 different routes for class 5, maybe even more. So which one you're going to take is, you know, who knows. And then there's also different options, because just because you're going on the same area or same route, it doesn't mean that it's going to be every single road, left turn, right turn for turn. You know, think of it as a random experience, right? Left turn here. So full stop. Again, there's a stop sign there, but even if there weren't one, we are treating this sidewalk as a stop, scanning both ways, waiting for that safe gap as it goes for all turns, or anytime you are going from point A to point B in any intersection, right? And this would essentially be an intersection, even though you know, people might think this is not an actual road, but it is. You know, it's leading out of the parking lot, but it's still a road. It's still an intersection. It has a stop sign. So left signal, left shoulder check. And in this case, I'll be making a right turn onto Gilmore. So now this truck cuts me off. I'm just going to slow down a little bit. Again, I'm not going to go 50 here just to prove a point that I need to go 50. Safety always wins, right? So speed limits need to be adjusted according to the situation, but you are not going to be exceeding 50 in most cases unless you're on the freeway or the highway. Right turn here onto Gilmore. Red light, full stop. This car on my left-hand side is giving me enough of a reason not to make a right turn on the red light because I can't see. Can I inch forward, improve my visibility? Sure can, but you're not obligated to turn right on the red light. I've said that in so many videos that I'm sure for some of you sounds like I'm a broken record. My apologies. Right turn, right signal, right shoulder check. Green light, not stopping, moving into and turning into the lane that is closest to the curb. And in this situation, I will be making a lane change because it will be required by the fact that there is a merge and there's a bunch of signs. So I'm going to make a lane change before the train tracks in this case. And again, scanning both ways. So there's your merge on the right hand side. It's been there for a long time. Eventually they will probably clear that out and it'll be just its own lane, which I believe it's a shared lane. There you go. So I'll be making a right turn coming up into this little side street, which this one's also a little bit tricky because it has a four-way stop immediately after this turn. It's just a ridiculous situation, in my opinion. Making the left turn here, left signal, left shoulder check. However, you know, it is there. So make sure when you make that turn, expect that stop sign there, and it's going to be coming up on you pretty quick. I'll be making a right turn at the top of the hill onto the highway or the freeway. And this section that I'll be turning into is a 50-kilometer zone at this point, so this is not an on-ramp yet. So make sure that you know when the speed limits essentially start, because there's really no sign at which point the speed limit starts until you pass that weird looking sign that says vehicles must operate at least 60 kilometers per hour or something like that. I've made a video about that on my freeway video, so check that out. So at this point, this is still 50. I think there's going to be a speed limit posted. There you go. There it is, 50. We are going to go through this crosswalk here. No stopping unless it's being occupied, obviously, clearly. And now I'm going to, there's that sign on the right hand side. Now I'm going to be exceeding my speed limit of 50 and matching the speed limit that is on the highway, which in this case it's 80. So I'm merging at, you know, 80, 85, 70, 75. Sure. And if you need to go faster than a vehicle that you're merging in front of, even if you accelerate to 90 safely and then slow down, you should be fine. Okay, you try not to go over the speed limit on the freeway, on the highway. I'm just moving over here so the cars next to me can merge if you want to do that as well, because I'm going onto Hastings, so I still have a little bit of ways, right? If you're getting off at this next exit, which is First Avenue, which you might, you wouldn't want to make a lane change in that case. Slow down, I'll let those cars in. But again, I'm an experienced driver, so this is what I'm doing. So I'll be, again, getting off at Hastings. So I'm going to be taking the Hastings exit. So I'll be making a lane change coming up here. There it is, signal, shoulder check into the right lane. And then once I pass the on-ramp, which is also kind of annoying, and this is very common in most of North America, where you have exit and entry points on the same side, on the right side. You know, in Europe and a lot of countries, it's laid out a little bit differently. But anyways, as I said earlier, we're in Canada, so follow the rules here. Signal, shoulder check. And now, again, the speed limit here is still, you know, 70 to 80. Let's say you can start slowing down. Exiting at this ramp here. Yellow speed limits, advisory. Please keep that in mind. So do not, again, slam on your brakes in these situations unless there's a car in front of you slowing down for whatever reason. Now here, coming up on the right hand side, there is a speed limit of 50. So I'll be slowing down to 50. There it is, overgrown by bushes. Very easy to see. And I'm being super sarcastic, but you know, the city doesn't do much about that. So 50, making a right turn onto Hastings. Now there is a bus lane there. You can turn into the bus lane and then quickly make a lane change because it's just going to be a parking lane. So no stopping here, no one's crossing. I'm yielding to the cars coming from the left-hand side, and I'm actually just turning into the middle lane in this case. So even if you do that on the test, you should be fine. It is a bus lane on the right-hand side, so. But again, you can do both. And then I'm making a right turn here on, I think this is Skeena. So right signal, right shoulder check, lane change, full stop, red light. In this case, I have decent visibility, so I could possibly inch forward. However, there's a pedestrian there on the right-hand side, so you never know. So I just waited for the green, shoulder check. Always do your shoulder checks nice and early. Don't do them while you're turning or right after. That's useless. Full stop, right signal, right shoulder check. Always scanning intersections. And then I'll be doing a parallel park coming up here behind one of these vehicles. So signal to your right, shoulder check as well, why not? Then your reverse 360 check, which you're looking both ways behind you. You're not doing 2 shoulder checks. And then I'm waiting for the car behind me. So you can let them pass. You can, you know, if they wait behind you, or if there's cars in front of you too, don't panic. If they don't wait, just let them go around you. But if they wait, just, you know, just finish your maneuver. Park, brake, secure your wheels if you are on an up or downhill. In this case, it is a downhill, so I'm turning my wheels to the right. And if you're asked to exit, same thing, release your brake, signal, check your mirrors, shoulder check, and make sure you are exiting when it's safe. Again, you should already know the rules at this point because you are a well-experienced and well-versed driver. Otherwise, you shouldn't be doing your road test. I'll be making a left turn here coming up at the stop sign. Now in this case, I do believe there's an arrow there to the left, which means if you're not given directions in this situation, you should know that you are making a left turn according to that arrow that's up ahead. The yellow sign with the black arrow only points to the left. So when you have signs like that, you should know that it's essentially a one-way street from that point on when you turn. I'll be doing a pullover park here. So right signal, right shoulder check, good distance to the curb. Again, if you are up or downhill, you go into secure your wheels in the proper direction. If it's flat, you could just leave them the way they are, straight or. And open your door, check for traffic. So if you're asked to do that, again, signal, shoulder check. Oh, sorry, not signal, but I'll use check your mirror and shoulder check. Pulling out, signal, shoulder check. This road here is actually 30 kilometers. So as soon as I made that left turn earlier, the 30 started on this road. So this neighborhood is 30. So in this case, I'm going 30 and even a little bit slower over the speed bumps, right? If you go 20, 25, again, it's 30 maximum, which means you cannot exceed the maximum speed limit of 30. If you have to go slower for whatever reasons, that is fine. Like these speed bumps, and my car does not like speed bumps, and no one likes speed bumps. So I'm just going a little bit slower. Full stop, left turn, left signal, left shoulder check. I'm inching forward first, scanning both ways. Once it's clear, boom, looking to the left, and we are going to be cruising once I see and know it's safe. So when you have these situations where you're inching forward, make sure that you are inching forward in increments and you are scanning both ways. The speed limit here is 30. I'm maintaining my 30-kilometer speed limit, not a school zone, not a park zone. This is just a residential speed limit of 30. There are some parks and schools, but full stop, three-way. A lot of people miss the stop sign somehow too. And at some point you will be asked to name 5 hazards. So it's just like for your class 7, it's the same 5 hazards. It might happen while you drive. It's always going to be people, weather, cyclists, cars, right? Those are your top 4 hazards. And then the 5th one will be based on the environment. So in this case, it is a 30-kilometer zone. You have cars parked on both sides. It's pretty sunny. It is also a park or a playground. There could be all kinds of things going on, right? You have trees, tall trees, low visibility, always based on the environment. It could be a school, park, construction zone, but the top 4, people, cyclists, cars, and anything related to weather or the road conditions. I'll be making a right turn here onto Boundary. So it is a red, full stop. I'm not rolling 4-way stops, 2-way stops, or any situations where I'm stopping in the intersection. So if it's red, full stop. A lot of people fail for just making a right turn on a red light without stopping. Scanning, shoulder checking, signaling, and I'm out of here to the lane that's closest to the curb. And I'll be pulling over here one more time. Signal, shoulder check, pull over, nice and, I shouldn't say nice and close to the curb, within a foot, let's say. Full stop, secure your wheels to the right, downhill, park, brake, and we're waiting for the next instructions. If you're told to leave, which you will be at some point, clearly. Left signal, left shoulder check, check your mirrors first. And we're back. We're on our way back to ICBC. We're almost there. We got this. fingers crossed, nothing happens along the way. Lane change, back over, or not back, but into the left lane, which this one is a little bit narrower, intimidating. However, still a good size lane. So now we're just going all the way down Lougheed, or Boundary, sorry, to Lougheed, and I'll be making a left turn onto the Lougheed Highway. Green lights, again, scanning all intersections both ways, whether you go left, right, right, left, irrelevant. Checking your mirrors, checking your mirrors, checking your mirrors as often as you possibly can, but at least every 5 to 10 seconds or so. Keeping your distance, maintaining your speed limit, good speed maintenance. We're making a left turn here onto Lougheed. Mirror signal, shoulder check. Both hands on the wheel. Full stop, red light. We're not there to make friends with the examiner. If it happens, it's great. That's not your goal. I'm not saying don't be friendly, but you're not there to make new friends. Again, if it happens, that's great, but don't think of it that way, right? They have a job to do, and they don't have a problem moving on to the next customer, so to speak, right? So do the best you can, but the better and safer you drive, the better chances you have. Left signal, left shoulder check, green arrow, turning to the lane that's closest to the center, and I'll be turning right in a little bit onto the ICBC parking lot. So I'll be making essentially a double lane change, back over to the right turn, or to the right lane rather. The lane on my right hand side is a bike lane, so I'm not going to be turning from the bike lane. Right signal, right shoulder check. So in this case, I'm going to go a little bit wide because I don't want to cross any solid lines. Whether it's yellow or white, unless we're talking about stop lines, don't cross any lines that are parallel to you. Left signal, left shoulder check, back into the ICBC parking lot. So now I'll be parking on the left-hand side, which again can happen. You can definitely be brought back from your road test from this direction. It's not very common, but it is a possibility. So in this case, I'm going to do a quick reverse park. And once you park, again, in this case, or in any case, you should already have a pretty good idea whether you pass or fail, unless you miss something, which, as I did say earlier, it's mostly speed limits that are issues that people miss on the test, like schools, park zones, or any other speed limits posted. So reverse park, as always, 360, and we are done park and brake. So if you drive like that, and again, if you stick to the rules and the regulations and you do all the things that you did on your previous test or the way you were taught from your driving instructor, as long as you had a good one, you should be fine. And I do hope that this video would be helpful and beneficial to all you lovely folks out there. Stay safe, keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.